What's up, guys? Welcome back. Now, today we'll talk about something very interesting, and that is about being the change you wish to see in the world so that you actually get to experience more of yourself. You get to experience better performance of yourself. You get to experience you as a better partner. You get to experience you on your higher level, right? Of how can you really reach your highest self, so to speak. Okay, and I call this being the hero or being the Shiro because, well, it feels like, okay, there's some level of superhuman kind of waiting within all of us. And sometimes that person comes out and sometimes they don't. And so this is your protocol or your methodology of how you can evoke this person out of it. You ready? Let's go. It was 2019, a late evening on a Friday night in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and I was actually on my balcony. It was an apartment on the 8th floor and it would be already dark. And so it would be 8, 9 p.m. and it was dark already. And I would sit there outside on this balcony with my two flatmates and this other friend. We were working with him and we exchanged some pleasantries. And somehow it kind of upset him. I think there was something I said that really the word didn't land. And I noticed it very much. Did you notice that sometimes when you actually do that, when you actually have this moment with somebody and all of a sudden, you notice something went wrong here? Yeah. And so I noticed it, but I didn't address it. And so we just continued the evening avoiding each other's gaze. And off he went, and it was all good and no problem. However, in the back of my mind, this event continued to transpire. And every single time I would actually see him, I would avoid his gaze. And every time I would see him around, I would try to avoid the events he would go to. And I would have this inner block of what I don't think I want to like be around this person because of this one thing that happened. Yeah. And so this happens for us on a regular basis when we're actually around people, right? That sometimes we drop something or we say something that triggers something in the other person and it breaks the connection, right? It literally breaks the connection in the energy flow between us. And we notice there's some sort of barrier here. There's some sort of defense mechanism. And you really want to dive deeper into this and what's actually happening because it will give you lots of energy back and it will actually unlock this new level for you. Okay, so let's dive into it. What is really happening when this happens? Our mind actually talks for like the majority of time. And while our mind talks for the majority of time, sometimes we decide that that's very important what our mind is saying, and we must actually say it out loud in order to fill the silence. Yes, because silence is deadly, isn't it? Yeah. And so we would actually express it out loud, and all of a sudden we would notice, ooh, I said something that I didn't really mean, and the other party misunderstood, and all of a sudden we don't like each other anymore. Right. And so the interesting part here is that when you're actually sharing something that your mind is talking about, it is very different than you sharing something that you actually really mean, right? And the thing is, you still have to take responsibility for that because you essentially sharing it out loud creates something in the world, right? All of us have this intuitive feeling of what happened here in the relationship, right? What happened here in this connection between these two individuals. And we notice it, sometimes we don't pay attention to it. We say, that's nothing. It was just me. I made that up, right? And while that may be true, I've learned over the years that in most cases, that is actually exactly what is going on underneath the surface. Now, you can't take it for granted, so you will have to kind of confirm with the other person whether it's actually happening. And so, for me, in that moment, for example, I actually waited for a couple of years and was avoiding this person, all the events. My entire life kind of was created around somehow not being around this person. And so, all of a sudden, I noticed maybe I need to do something about that because otherwise, it won't change. This resentment that I've been holding on to for this long time has actually been feeding on my energy. And in order to actually create a newer, better version of myself or step into a better version of myself, I want to gain that energy back first. And here's how you gain the energy back. First step to get your energy back is to actually realize that it wasn't about the other person. They didn't do anything wrong in particular. Maybe they said something, yes, but it was very much you who actually created the resentment within. Yes, right? And so here's the first thing you need to use the mirror, right? Apply the mirror by turning the whatever you feel like they're doing, turning it back onto yourself for a moment and say, well, okay, so if I think that they really don't care about me, then ask yourself, do I care about them? And you got to be really honest here, right? Because sometimes we will just lie through, even to ourselves, and we'll say, yes, of course, yeah, I care about them. But in those moments, very often, whenever we project something onto somebody else, it is us who are actually feeling that way. And so you turn in the mirror and you say, oh, yeah, I don't care about them. And then you wonder, well, why is that actually? Why is that the case? Why have I stopped caring? Because that wasn't always the case. I did care about them before this thing happened. So what happened there? And you can say, well, yeah, I felt this in this way, right? Within you, it's a bit of a self-check. You notice, oh yeah, I felt this in this way when they said that, and when I felt that, yeah, it didn't feel so great. All right, it's because, and why is that? Potentially because maybe I've experienced something like that in the past. It wasn't so nice. Right, and so once you connect the dots, you'll be able to turn the mirror, connect the dots, notice, oh, there's some garbage from the past that's been releasing, you got stuck on. And when you let that go, then actually the door is open. Yeah, the door is open to actually reconnect and mend that relationship. And it's much easier than you think, because once we have kind of connected the dots and we realized, oh, there's something within me that's actually that I've been holding on to, a resentment towards somebody, and I can let that go. Once we let that go, and letting go means you just take a breath and you say, yeah, I guess it's all right. It's fine. Let's move on, right? We all do mistakes. Okay, let's move on. Once you move on, if you like, you can actually share it with them, right? That would be like the final step in this equation of gaining your energy back, where you say, hey, I know you probably don't remember this, but there was this time when we did this and this happened, and somehow in that moment I felt really disconnected. And while I was feeling disconnected and while this was happening, somehow I created this resentment within me towards you. And it doesn't make any sense, because it was some garbage from my past that I kind of stumbled on. And well, until now, yeah, I've been feeling this resentment towards you. And well, recently I decided that, hey, this is actually not your fault, and I let it go. And so I just want to say, yeah, I'm sorry, and I hope we can do some cool stuff together in the future. And you would be surprised when you share actually what's been going on for you, what kind of release happens, how you get so much energy back. Not only that you get energy back, you actually get the person back, right? So essentially that relationship can be neutral afterwards, it can be whatever you want it to be, but all of a sudden you're not avoiding all the things they're doing. Their gaze to your life doesn't direct itself, right? Because of whatever happened at that one point. And so when I did that, for example, the person, you know what they said? They said, oh, yeah, I didn't even notice, but thanks for saying that. Actually, that's true. Right? And so sometimes we don't notice it, but it's actually true, right? That what's happening, this underlying thing of, oh, this is kind of what's happening between us, isn't it? And so while we don't notice it sometimes we can address it, right? And when we address it, it can make a difference for us and for others. And so this is the first step of being the change, right? To turn the mirror back onto you, to notice, I want this person, I want somebody to change. And you notice, what is it that I want them to change? Turn the mirror back and say, well, what about me, right? Is it potentially me that wants to change, like I want them to change? And then actually really do that change, right? And in this case, we just talked about one way of basically releasing resentment so that you get some energy back and create a beautiful relationship. And in the next video, we'll go deeper into what is it that you actually wish to see and why. Until then, take care.